hope to see out of MVP is some sort of marine aggression at the start of this game that will really help prevent Nerchio from getting to the like 8 gas again. Up in the top corner, currently behind in this series, if you'd like him to pull it off, give a cheer for Acer's Nerchio.
And spawning down in the bottom left-hand corner, pretty much match point for him here. If he wins, he goes away with $6,500. Ladies and gentlemen, spawning as the red, give it up for LGIM's MVP.
It's actually 6,500 euros.
Oh,
which is something like
25,000
right. American dollars, because our currency totally sucks.
Pretty much. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay.
It's okay for me though. I'm used to living on the continent now and being from England.
Oh, yeah,
the English pound's pretty strong, so everything there costs like 10,000 euros for like a chocolate bar. It's pretty
it's
annoying.
Pretty absurd. Like 6,500 pounds would be like the GDP of America.
Yeah, pretty much. So my apologies for that, Sean. Let's move into the game.
You see the expected early expand, and I guess I should also say the fairly expected command center first coming out of MVP, and given this sort of weird placement, now he's just going to go mine briefly before he takes himself his fast CC. But as anticipated, this is the biggest macro map.
I think that going into this game here, Nerchio up against MVP, if MVP is able to get into his stride in a macro game, on this map specifically, he is almost undefeatable. And I need to say that very, very slowly. So Nerchio here, he has to realize that I feel MVP is just going to play greedy, again, in a similar vein to what we saw previous games. So I would love to see some early aggression from Nerchio, like really early aggression.
I wouldn't even mind seeing some Ling Ultra Nidus aggression. This is something that most Zerg players are going Ling Infestor Broodlord. And this is kind of a result of most Terrans going for kind of a, I guess I would call it an adequate Marine tank medevac, which just gets totally smoked by reasonable Marine Infestor Banshee play. Or Marine Infestor tank play. What the hell am I trying to say? I keep saying the wrong mix of units. Let me try that for the 3rd time. The Ling Infestor Broodlord crushes most Marine tank medevac play. There we go.
Nice.
But on this map, when you spread out to 5 bases, Ling Ultra Nidus Worm means that it's difficult to cover all possible locations at once.
You're making this difficult for yourself, man. That's a million combinations in about 3 sentences. But you got it. You got it.
I get there eventually.
Yeah, that was nice. That was nice. But, I mean, what we're seeing from MVP here is not as greedy a play as we saw in our anticipation, but adding on that 2nd barracks to actually make Marines, as opposed to only having 1 Marine at the 7:30-minute mark, which always leaves you a little bit vulnerable. So MVP, I think he was thinking like we were, assuming that, you know, because of the map sizes, there's always that potential that Nerchio is going to put on that aggression. But as you can see, Nerchio swinging in with just a few Lings.
What we're probably going to see from MVP is another command center, and then double gas, and then straight into tank. No reason to beat around the bush and try to go Hellion at this point. I mean, he could potentially go barracks, but I would more so anticipate that he'd just say, you know what, tanks are awesome. This is something MVP just does. He loves himself some tanks.
Yeah, and especially on Metropolis, once again, there's just 2 big chokes to really put on the aggression there. And if you're able to control those with the tanks on, say, high grounds, for example, it makes it so difficult for Nerchio to actually break. So other than that, we have the 2 gas gases being added on, as you rightfully pointed out. And you could also, you know, go into that double engineering bay as well. No reason not to. But, you know, all really, really viable options here going into game number 4.
Nerchio, let's think about what he's doing. He's doing a kind of a later gas than what we've seen him do beforehand. Couple of Marines poking forward. It's going to be an extremely easy, straightforward defense with this queen opening from Nerchio. And is he going for a macro hatch? He generally does something mineral-wise around now, but MVP doing the smart play, just making sure there's no expansion quite yet.
Yeah, nice little done here. The drone is on the way. The Ling's going to try and clear this out, but that's too many Marines to actually deal with. He'll have to retreat to the reinforcement of his 2 queens for now. 2nd drone gets sniped off there by those Marines and they get away with their lives. Nice
Such a slick little play, just picking off that drone, making sure that Nerchio cannot quite get it up. Layer instantly goes down for Nerchio, and 2 more gas geysers. Ooh. So it looks like Nerchio wanted to just hint that, yeah, that is what I'm going to be doing. I am going to be going 3 hatch, and then nada. This, I really should be Mutalisk if he wants to be able to exploit this situation.
Yeah, and a good map for it. There's a lot of things here that they're doing that are good maps for it, but he's actually throwing the Roach Warren down. This could quite easily also just be there to, fend off some early aggression from his opponent, but they don't work too well against just Marine compositions. So, and especially with the Marauders being mixed in already here from MVP, so he's going to be able to bust down those rocks pretty darn quickly and bag himself that lovely little 3rd base.
God, again going for this double engineering bay play, and I know we've been seeing it out of him, but he just does it in a slightly different way every time, but it's always a risk. How do you stay alive against whatever the Zerg is throwing at you? Well, I guess I think my Zerg opponent is going for a 3-base play. I'll go ahead and get my double engineering base, so he probably won't be attacking, but looks like Nerchio has exactly that plan. Macro hatch down, Zergling speed, Roach speed. I think we're actually going to see a 2-base bust attempt.
I mean, is he going to keep it? I guess he's going to let this 3rd base finish just for the lava, right? And then if he was going to go for something like that, as crazy aggression as possible, he's transferring a lot of drones down there to be able to get that going. But again, there's going to be that timing where he has all these upgrades up and running. And I mean, how many tanks does his opponent have? Okay, he doesn't have any tanks right now. He's just committing fully to the Marine and Marauder. But there's still only around 15 Marines and 3 Marauders on the map. He really needs to ramp up that production here in order to be able to deal with any kind of aggression in this mid. Oh, wow. 12 roaches.
12 roaches popping out. Infestation pit. This is the Nerchio special, a Ling Roach Infestor mixture against Terran. The real danger, though, is that MVP is starting to finish up these medevacs, and MVP loves to go for medevac drops around now because, again, it's impossible for Mutals to be out, impossible for really anything to threaten the medevacs to be out yet.
Yeah, loving the positioning of the Overseer up to that top left to be able to spot that if it was going on in terms of that drop play. And he's also even spreading out a second wall of Overlords right up there as well, just to be able to catch and be doubly sure that that's going on. Nice Overlord to the south here. And other than that, just more roaches piling out. Not too many drones in production. He has already got up to that 70 drone count. And with all these roaches on the way, Pathogen Gland's going to be finishing up as well soon. But, I mean, he's not even fully committing to this mid-game play. He's got melee upgrades on the way here. So he's going to have a nice little stepping stone onto that late game if he actually wants it.
Well, I do see the Pathogen Glands going down. Nerchio going to reveal his pack of roaches, pulls back immediately. The scan denies the creep spread from continuing any further, but as these infestors begin to be produced, then suddenly MVP's got to be wary of a big shove at the front. Tank's just now stopping, or just now finishing, and he hasn't really got a good foothold over this center area yet.
I think most, oh yeah, Siege Tank did finish up there, so that's pretty good in itself. And other than that, just adding on more barracks, the second factory going down to be able to crank out those extra tanks when he needs them. 4th command center on the way here. So again, we've said it 1,000,001 times, but Metropolis really favoring this very, very passive style, really favoring no one really poking too much and just getting into that very, very late game situation.
Splitting up of all of Nerchio's units on opposite sides, but Nerchio seems to have been able, oh, Infestors pop out at the last possible second, and suddenly that medevac is going to fall down very quickly. The Queen in the main base will also not die, so MVP thus far has not really gotten any good opportunities to deal damage.
Yeah, he tried to go for another drop over to the right-hand side, but I mean, there's no basis here to actually exploit anyway, so he's going to be throwing down that hatchery at the 4th location, so he's just going to keep these units hitting around for here is MVP. And meanwhile, Nerchio with so many units marching across the map.
Starting to step forward. There's a couple of tank blasts, and no, he's decided that he wants to engage. Fungal growth goes down. It's a limbo line Zerg, but it is a long limbo line, and Nerchio's starting to step into some good positions, but these tanks have just amazing angles, but roaches spread out, take those down. MVP might barely defend this attack.
He's got a few more units coming out, not to mention that reinforcement point so close here. It's going to push him back for now, and Nerchio being fended off quite easily.
And now MVP stepping into action with this drop play at the top side. MVP never misses a beat, instantly stepping into aggression. And Nerchio's been doing a decent job attacking or defending, but it's the fact he's trying to do both that's giving him trouble. MVP is just super good at it.
At this point, we really need to have Nerchio be able to establish this fourth base pretty much uncontested. He needs those two extra gas guys to be able to fuel the Hive and the Spire that are now morphing in. Drops the scan, seeing that Hive morphing in halfway and that Spire. So he knows exactly what his opponent wants to do from here on.
God, that medevac is still being really annoying, and Nerchio is going to have to maybe waste a couple of fungal growths on it. Oh, he misses with a fungal. A painful moment for all infestors around the world. But Nerchio right now has spent a lot of gas on roaches. He's depleted a full set of roaches. I actually think that this engagement angle would have been a lot better for him to sweep in. Could have gotten the chance to avoid high ground tank reinforcement, but I think Nerchio was feeling a little overeager from the start of the game.
Oh God, and this sensor tower placement from MVP, keeping an eye on everything. I mean, if these two choke points weren't easy to defend enough, adding a sensor tower there to know exactly when your opponent's going to be coming along, and those two medevacs will be able to get away in the main for now. Nerchio going to be maxed out pretty soon, but there's just so much here for MVP at this point.
MVP sieging up. MVP is dangerously close to that creep line. There is a lot of Zerg units on all angles. I'm not actually sure how MVP was able to have this few units and still be this close to max, and he's still pushing forward. Oh, a big blunder on the timing for MVP. This is just what Nerchio needs to step back into this game. Just gets smoked in a matter of seconds.
A great little surround there by Nerchio. He's not done yet. He's going to chase this army all the way home. Oh, but actually pulling back for now. Wants to be able to try and hit the fourth base that is already up and running, or even just attack down that angle anyway. And it looks like MVP setting himself up for the defense.
And will he engage? He does. Where's the fungal growth? Nabs a front line, tanks instantly target fire the cluster of those infestors. Some unbelievable fungal growth dealing massive damage, but MVP does a big drop in the back of the main base.
He's going to be able to take out a lot of this tech if he wants to, but the Zerglings are actually able to pick up for now. Meanwhile, that push at the front being cleaned up by the reinforcing bio. He's actually trying to transition into Ravens whilst all this is going on. And look at the Sim City for Nerchio working against him. Nice fungal growth on that drop, and he will get it with all the Zerglings.
The Greater Spire does manage to stay alive. Close call for Nerchio thus far.
Yeah, this is getting a little scary. I mean, he's constantly pushing forwards here. Once again with some bio, catching some infestors down to the south. The Zergling's trying to help out, but he gets the last infestor. 5 more in production, but he's only got 1 infestor out right now. Losing those big gas units is so costly for Nerchio, who is not yet established on his 4th base properly.
God, this game is so back and forth, Kalaris. Right now, Nerchio, the one at a deficit, trying to take his 5th base as Ravens begin to pile up. This choice to go for the Greater Spire is going to start increasingly concerning me. Now MVP dropping this hatch at the far right.
It's such a difficult position for Nerchio to be in, but he's actually trying to make the most of it here with these Zergling run-bys. Nice little move in, does force the cancel on that 5th, but meanwhile the Zerglings get cleaned up in the 4th.
I mean, these Zerglings are just doing some damage, but not nearly enough. MVP's gone into the huge macro mode. He has a lot of barracks with tech labs, which is a sign of a Terran who's really trying to value that later gameplay. A little bit of Overlord puking on the low ground. And, you know, normally I'd kind of just think, yeah, this is definitely Terran's game. Look at the supply count, look at the base count. That sort of, you know, blow the rest of it off. But right now, with the size of the map, it's so difficult for someone to really exploit this edge because the distances are so large. So Nerchio actually does have quite a bit of time to relax and breathe, but MVP is trying to minimize that time by doing these kind of drops.
MVP had a really nice income lead there as well for a good portion of time. It's dissipated now because the mules have actually fallen away. But once again, just dropping over at this 5th location, taking out so quickly here. MVP looking phenomenal. It looks like he's going to go for the push. Out, he closes the gap here with the roaches so quickly. A lovely fungal growth on the back against those Marines, but there's too much bio here for him to continue laying those fungals down.
Oh, MVP just surrounds the Zerg army with Marine Marauder, picking off all the remaining infestors. An MVP who asked for your cheers at the start of the game. It looks like it is paying off as Nerchio is being pulled every which way. cannot seem to defend against this varied aggression from MVP.
Yeah, that drop now still was doing a little bit of damage in the fourth of Nurchio, killing 1 or 2 drones off, but Nurchio being able to deal with that with those Zerglings, and he's actually doing quite a bit of damage with those roaches, but that gets cleaned up as well in his opponent's fourth. And for now, though, I mean, Nurchio he has a lot of gas backed up. He's producing tons and tons of Zerglings. Wow. And he has the Great Aspire. He's not making any Corruptors or Broodlords to be able to go for this. He had like 60 Lings in production there.
It's actually kind of crazy, the fact that both players only killed off about 15 workers each. Given the amount of drops that has happened in either player's base, I mean, the amount of drops that have happened over here at the right side from this very medevac is staggering on its own.
We have no Parasite, 8 more Infestors on the way. I guess he wants to try and nab those Ravens if he can do. Against Terran, Ravens are actually pretty good if you're able to get the Hunter Seeker Missile off because, oh, actually, nice little fungal there. But again, Terran clumps up so much. So if you're able to get that Neural Parasite and that Seeker, it will be rather good. But a Seeker Missile, oh, nice control there,
There's the Seeker Missile, pulling it back at the last second. A couple Infested Terrans pop up.
Oh, he's trying to pick out the Zerglings. Picks up a few of them, but at the same time, those Vikings moving forward.
MVP, an army of doom stepping in. The perfect fungals, the happy face from Nurchio. And it looks like GG!
Ladies and gentlemen, LGIM's MVP is the champion of the Intel Extreme Masters Gamescom here for 2012, the first stop in the Intel Extreme Masters list. Wow.
Having come from the open bracket, he crushed through it, winning his bracket, performed brilliantly, winning first in his group, and then crushed through all his opponents to get here, defeating Vortex, defeating Nurchio here in the finals, and getting the chance to avenge the death of Nesty.
Yep, everyone was pegging these two to be some of the favorites here coming into this tournament, and LGIM's MVP did not disappoint. But as well, guys, a big round of applause for Aces Nurchio for a phenomenal tournament run.
Gosh, I mean, as Nurchio, you just can't possibly feel bad about that run. But without any further ado, I'm going to throw it up to Jarrett on the main stage to interview our winner, MVP.
2012 Intel Extreme Masters Gamescom champion, LGIM MVP. How do you feel now that you are a champion again?
기분 어떤지 지금 우승해서 기분 어떤지. 제가 IEM은 처음 나온 건데 이렇게 IEM에서 우승할 수 있게 돼서 너무 기쁘고 다음에도 또 IEM 하면 또 오고 싶을 정도로 너무 좋았어요.
Well, it's his first IEM, and he's really happy that he won it, and he will try his best to come to the next IEM as well.
Did you expect to meet Nurchio in the final, and what did you think of your opponent?
결승전 가서 네아치오 만날 건지 생각했는지 여기 오기 전에, 그리고 네아치오 어떻게 생각하는지 실력대로.
솔직히 그 8강 전부터 너치오 선수가 결승에 올 것 같았어요. 그래가지고 결승은 너치오 선수일 것 같다고 생각했는데 이렇게 예상대로 올라오셨고, 그리고 워낙 잘하시는 분이라 굉장히 힘들었는데 그래도 운도 많이 따라주고 이번에 게임도 잘 돼서 이길 수 있었던 것 같아요.
Well, before the round of 8, he kind of expected Nacho to advance to the finals, and it came so. And Nacho is a really good player, and he thinks that MVP himself that he got kind of lucky, and that the strategies that he made, that it went fluently.
You are the most consistent and the most winningest player in StarCraft 2 history. What's your secret? What separates you from the rest?
우승 제일 많이 했는데 이때까지 스타투 선수들 중에서 그 왜 그런지 뭐 어떤 뭐 비밀 있는지 뭐.
비밀은 딱히 없고 그냥 저에게 뭐 행운 같은 게 오면 제가 잘 잡는 것 같아요. 운이 좋은 사람이 우승도 할 수 있다고 생각하고 운도 따라줘야 우승할 수 있다고 생각하기 때문에 그 온 운을 제가 잘 잡은 것 같아요.
Well, actually, he thinks there's no big secret behind it. He just thinks that the guy who's like, I mean, you need luck in this game as well, and if you have that luck, it's like then you can win, and you can win tournaments, and he's like kind of like lucky most of the time.
Luck. I think it's talent. You have so many fans outside of Korea, and the forums today were exploding and showing that love. For one last time, what would you like to say to them all?
분들한테 말할 거 있는 거 말해줘.
제가 IEM 처음 참가했는데 너무 팬분들이 되게 환호도 많이 해주시고 응원도 너무 많이 해주셔서 너무 감사드리고 평생 잊지 못할 것 같아요.
Well, it's his first IEM, like you said, and it's the first time that he's like outside, that he's in Europe. So it's like really nice that there are so many people cheering and supporting him, and he will never forget that.
It's great. Once again, congratulations on your victory. Good luck in the future. Can't wait for next year. MVP. Who is an MVP? We'll be back after a short break for the award ceremony.